Are Russian mercenaries present on the border between Ghana and Burkina Faso? Well, Ghana's president Akufo-Addo strongly believes so, a claim that Burkina Faso has strongly denied. These claims come after a visit by Burkina Faso's prime minister to Russia. So, is this evidence of Russia trying to increase its influence in Africa, or is President Nana Addo simply crying wolf? Check it out on this week's episode of the Africa Tonight Show. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe.
I am an African.
Yeah, man. A lot of things happening this week. I think everybody was kind of caught up with the World Cup, but a lot of things happening this week. I think the one of the big ones that caught my attention was the Ghana Burkina Faso situation. So, just to explain what's going on, Ghana. So the Ghanaian President Akufa. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Nana Akufo-Addo.
Nana Akufo-Addo.
Yeah.
Akufa is probably easier, right?
I think, just say Nana Addo. That's like his last name.
All right, Nana Addo. So President Nana Addo was at the US summit, and he basically stated that Burkina Faso has hired Russian mercenaries from the famous Wagner Group. Now, the Ghanaian president said, and I quote, "Today, Russian mercenaries are on our northern border. Burkina Faso has now entered into an agreement to go along with Mali in employing the Wagner forces there." Now, experts say that whilst these claims are plausible, they cannot be verified. President Nana
Akufo-Addo.
Akufo-Addo. That's why you're here.
Like a hyphen.
That's why you're here. You see, President, the Ghanaian president. Basically, people suggest that he's making this claim because the prime minister of Burkina Faso had traveled to Russia, and but he strongly believes that Burkina Faso has gone into a deal with the Wagner Group, so much so that he's claiming that one of the mines in Burkina Faso has been given as payment to the Wagner Group. Now, who is the Wagner Group? I don't know. Zenge, you do IR. Have you heard of the Wagner Group?
Yeah, I mean, the Wagner Group is an infamous... so the term is Private Military Contractors, PMC, which is the modern term for mercenaries. Okay. They're closely associated with the Kremlin. And for those that don't know Russian politics, the Kremlin is basically the government or the parliament. The building itself is the parliament.
However, it's important to note that the Kremlin has strongly denied.
The Kremlin officially has strongly denied its association with the
I don't want no smoke.
However, most like scholars and academics, it's more or less in practice associated with Russian influence. The Wagner Group has operated in Central African Republic to assist in security operations of the government in Central African Republic. The president at the time was off the heels of a civil war. The current president of Central African Republic is Faustin Archange Touadera. The abbreviation is FAT. I'm not gonna say what. I'm not gonna read. Yeah. Anyway, and then Wagner Group is also in northern Mozambique. For those that don't know, northern Mozambique was facing, still is facing a heavy insurgency. And the first armed group that went to assist the Mozambican government was actually the Wagner Group.
Really?
Yeah, before the SAMIM,
before
which is
Rwanda.
the Southern African. Yeah, before Rwanda and before the SADC, the Southern African Regional Group came to help.
Did not know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Wagner Group is quite extensive. Has quite an extensive reach in Africa. So they are in Libya as well.
Yeah.
Some 2,000 Wagner mercenaries are there. As I said, Central African Republic has 450 elements, and as you said, in Burkina Faso, the allegation. In Central African Republic. Yeah, from my own research, Central African Republic, a lot of Wagner mercenary installations are coincidentally, let's just say that, installed near mines.
Okay.
Russian-linked mines. Not Russian government, but those mines are owned by
Russian business people.
Yeah, by Russian businessmen that are in good books with the Kremlin. In Sudan as well, it's also a logistic base for African operations. The Wagner Group has one there. basically to secure imports and exports around Port Sudan. And then in the Democratic Republic of Congo, there is Wagner Group activity there to a lesser degree. So they've quite a few operations across Africa, and they're well known to have sort of been the guy that you call if you are a not so clean authoritarian leader, and you prop them up. Okay, with the exception of Mozambique. Let me not accuse Mozambique of that. But they're quite a diverse clientele, but they don't necessarily follow democratic values in terms of assisting them. They just support, and somehow they are linked to Russian influence as well. Minerals is also something they're closely associated with. So it's sort of security for minerals. And I think that's the accusation.
I was reading the New York Times as well, and it's a group that's also been linked with quite a lot of human abuse problems. And to a certain degree, they've tried to clean up their image. I see them trying to portray themselves as this good force, as a force for good, and that is definite. Whether they're good or bad has to be left to our viewers to make a decision for themselves. All the sources that we are stating are going to be linked below. But so how did this situation basically come to be? So there's currently quite a terrible civil war going on between the government in Burkina Faso and rebel groups. It's kind of known as the insurgency in the Sahel. And it really didn't start in Burkina Faso until former president of Burkina Faso, Blaise Compaoré, was ousted. Now, Blaise Compaoré, you probably know him as the guy that took over from the very famous Thomas Sankara.
Yeah, the guy who killed Sankara, Thomas Sankara.
Yeah, as he's known as the man that I don't know if I should say allegedly or it's been.
Yeah, I mean the taken to court and he was arrested. I mean, he wasn't arrested, but he was charged with the death of Thomas Sankara.
Yeah.
So you could say that he's responsible for the death of Thomas Sankara.
So he basically been charged for the death of Thomas Sankara, a very famous African leader. And now Blaise Compaoré was kind of this mediator within the region between the rebels and governments like Mali and things like that. But then once he was ousted, it brought in quite a lot of instability. So much so that between 2015 and 2022, Burkina Faso has had about 8 presidents. That is crazy, in my opinion. I personally think that if you're going to become a president of Burkina Faso, there should be an asterisk. It's like you're probably not gonna be here for too long, pal. So
just enjoy while you can.
Enjoy it while you can. I remember I was reading this, and I'll probably put it in the post or something. But one of the presidents was there for just Christmas, bro. And that was it.
It's been quite unstable. I guess because Blaise Compaoré was he sort of had a whole architecture of his authoritarian system, and then once he left, sort of a lid was opened, and it just left a vacuum of people shifting from one side to the other.
And when I was doing my research, when you look at the president's faces, it's like they already know. Their faces don't look like somebody who is finally president of a country. It's okay, let's get this. All right, how long am I going to be here? It's pretty crazy. And just as well as the fact that there were literally 2 coups this year, if I'm not mistaken. In
there was one in January and one in September,
which has to be a world record, right?
So there's a coup and the counter coup.
Has to be. Has to be a world record.
I think they were suspended by the African Union. I think they still are. Mali was brought back, but I don't know about Burkina Faso. I have to confirm that.
But
they're not invited to the US Africa
Summit. I noticed.
Where the Ghanaian president made that statement because the US, because they're part of US foreign policy, is also is also democracy and democratic values. They are against the sort of illegitimate military government. That's what they see. They see it as an illegitimate government because they haven't had the leader has not necessarily been elected. It's come through basically military force.
Yeah. The current leader is interim president is Traore.
Yeah, Ibrahim Traore.
So yeah.
And also, if you want to check our list of current African leaders.
Oh yeah, you had I think I'll probably also put it up here as well. So Burkina Faso has definitely denied the claims that the Ghanaian president has made. However, so Burkina Faso has summoned him to come. I don't know if they want to have a meeting with him, basically, so that he can clarify.
Yeah, they have summoned the Ghanaian ambassador.
Okay.
In Ouagadougou, which is the capital. Burkina Faso. So this is according to Africa Report. Burkina Faso has summoned Ghana's ambassador in Ouagadougou for questioning over President Akufo-Addo's allegations it has hired Russian mercenaries to fight the insurgency in the country.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a full-on diplomatic spat, and they're basically like, "Who told you?"
Who told you? Where did you get this information?
Yeah, I was like,
it's supposed to be classified. Where did you get?
Yeah. So I mean,
it's crazy. But I wanted to ask you, Zingy, like, because the whole time I was doing this research, in my head I was like, is the reason why Ghana is concerned about this just because they're neighbors with Burkina Faso and perhaps they fear that it could spill over into Ghana, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a security issue. Ghana and Burkina Faso are members of the Economic Community of West African States, of ECOWAS. Once again, let me just drop that we also posted some regional organizations of Africa, regional groupings. That's why we're here, man. The regional groupings, it's up on our Instagram. So ECOWAS is the regional grouping of West Africa, and Ghana is a significant member of ECOWAS. And it's one of the most stable countries, one of the most democratic countries in ECOWAS. So Ghana, I think, sees itself as having a degree of responsibility to mediate or even condemn or members in its community that violate their principles. Both ECOWAS and the African Union are against illegitimate means of getting power. Basically, you should have an election. It's a bit, there's obviously critics like, oh, you're just obsessed with an election. Doesn't matter whether it's free or fair. Just have an election so that it looks like, something has been done. But anyway,
sort of like there's the way Zimbabwe did it, right?
Yeah. So there's a bit of like, there's that criticism over, because Burkina Faso's previous president was democratically elected, but they were not satisfied with him.
Yeah.
And so basically it's about, and there were various allegations over his practices, corruption and so on. So it's about whether you're getting democratic dividends. So the argument, and many youths supported the takeover by the military, but it's still not a civilian government. It's not a democratically elected government. He's of course the transitional president, and the transition, the transition is going to be over a year. So you never know. All military leaders, once they come to power, they say this is simply transitional. 50 years later, they'll be like, I 85-year-old man, I am still part of the revolution. And the revolution. Anyway, I'm not speculating, but I'm just saying that you have to watch Burkina Faso really closely, because of course you have the argument about how Burkina Faso's attempt at democracy was after the fall of Blaise Compaoré. There was an excitement in 2014 that finally Burkina Faso have a democracy, but that democracy has been quite dysfunctional, and people are very unsatisfied with it, and especially Burkina Faso's close relationship with France. And so that's why protesters were waving the Russian flag. They were waving, they had posters of Vladimir Putin and Ibrahim Traore. Saying that we should do in Burkina Faso as we did in Mali, because we're tired of the French. We're tired of the French participation in the Sahel. France is there normally as a security guarantor as well as an economic guarantor in the Central African Republic, West African franc, which is the currency.
I am an African.